Welcome to Zoom Out Bitcoin, the channel where we take a step back, zoom out, and look at the bigger picture involving Bitcoin. Today, I want to talk about what I believe has been the biggest problem with Bitcoin for the last 8 to 10 years. That is its marketing. Bitcoin has advertised itself unintentionally, because there's not a marketing team with Bitcoin, but it's been advertised as a cryptocurrency. And this has come with it huge expectations and beliefs, both of what type of industry and how Bitcoin is kind of quote unquote run and what it's actually supposed to be doing. So what I mean by that is, and we'll break it down to just crypto and currency. So first is the crypto aspect has tied it to the crypto industry, which was actually created off the coattails of Bitcoin's success. And what you had was a very successful asset in terms of Bitcoin, which made a lot of people a lot of money, even in the very, very early days. And people saw that there was an appetite for these types of assets. And because of the performance of Bitcoin, you could very likely create other scam coins and exchanges and infrastructure that kind of facilitated these assets that, quite frankly, ripped people off, that lied about what the underlying technology was because people didn't fully understand it, and promised people, not even promised, but just gave people the hope of having the types of returns that Bitcoin had. This happened both very early on, after Bitcoin was successful. We saw other forms of cryptocurrencies begin to pop up. But as Bitcoin became more and more mainstream and people didn't fully understand the technology behind it, it happened more and more and more. And this past year has been kind of the year of meme coins, in my opinion, as there are so many different meme coins that have skyrocketed and tanked and then gone back up. Some of them have been started by celebrities that then sell off at the top. Obviously, Malay, literally a president of a nation, created their own meme coin and sold it off at the top, scamming out tons of the citizens of the nation itself. Donald Trump obviously made Donald Trump coin that saw something almost identical happen during his inauguration, January 20th. So we've seen the crypto industry, also things like FTX and Kraken and I believe DeFi, having major lawsuits and customers losing massive amounts of money from them going bankrupt or them devaluing the underlying crypto asset that they're purchasing. It's been an industry of scams. And having Bitcoin be kind of the head, it's what people think of when they think of crypto, is Bitcoin. In a lot of people's minds, it directly ties Bitcoin with being a scam, with being unregulated and lawless and essentially gambling. This has had huge negative effects on the asset itself. And I believe it's one of the main reasons that the general public, despite Bitcoin being one of the most successful growth assets that we've ever seen, the general public still remains extremely skeptical and tends to think it's far more in line with gambling and speculation that's eventually going to fall than it is an actual real asset. And it's only been very recently that that public narrative has begun to change. And I think that is because it was represented as a cryptocurrency. So the second part is a currency. And if people can get past the crypto side, maybe they see that Bitcoin itself has performed very well, even though other cryptos have had scams and rug pulls. But if they can get past the crypto aspect of it and get to the currency aspect of it, their expectation of Bitcoin is that you're going to go down to the store, you're going to buy a cup of coffee, and then whenever you get paid, you're going to be paid in Bitcoin, and your house payments are going to be in Bitcoin, and then it's going to be used as a currency, because that's what it's been called, is a cryptocurrency. And this just isn't realistic. It's not realistic expectations, certainly whenever Bitcoin started. It's not even realistic expectations now. I'm a large supporter of Bitcoin. And one of the reasons I'm a large supporter of Bitcoin is because it doesn't have to become an everyday currency to be extremely successful. When's the last time you went to the store and bought a cup of coffee with Amazon stock or Tesla stock or Nvidia stock, or pick your equity? Additionally, when's the last time you went to the store and paid in gold, silver, copper, platinum? Most people, when's the last time you went to the store and actually paid with real cash? It's okay if this asset isn't used as a day-to-day currency. No other publicly traded asset is measured by this metric of if you're actually going to use it every single day to buy stuff, if it's actually reasonable to do that. They're measured in terms of what's their performance been, how much returns have you gotten, what are the underlying fundamentals. I believe it's because Bitcoin presented itself as a cryptocurrency that people have these expectations. And whenever your expectations are sky high and you look at this asset, there is very reasonable skepticism about if Bitcoin could ever actually do that. Even as a major supporter, I wouldn't, I don't think the odds are over 50% it happens. I think the odds are very low that it becomes the day-to-day currency for most people in the world. I think that's extremely unlikely. But luckily, and as I said, the reason I'm in this asset is it doesn't need to achieve that to become successful. If instead this asset was advertised as digital gold, people would have an entirely different view on what Bitcoin is, and I think would have been a lot more friendly to it, and there would have been a lot more money flowed into it by now. Obviously, there's digital versions of everything, and digital versions include scams and copycats and all types of issues that come with the crypto space. But advertised as digital gold, you realize it's not this new industry that is unique to being kind of Wild West meets tech meets finance. It's just the digital version. And we've seen, of course, websites and emails. There are phishing emails all the time, but people still trust emails. They separate those two entities. And I think that if it was advertised as digital first, and then importantly, it doesn't have to be a currency. If it was, I really believe that if Bitcoin was marketed as digital gold, people would have looked at it and they would have said, okay, well, what gives gold its underlying value? And for those of you who are thinking it's jewelry or electronics, if you research gold, you'll quickly find that's not actually what gives it its value. It's the extreme scarcity and the difficulty to put new gold onto the market that really gives it its retained buying power. Learning things like that, learning about sellability, would have had people understand the fundamentals of Bitcoin a lot better and realize this asset really could be a digital gold that has ultimate scarcity, that is perfectly divisible and transmissible, that's hard to track and control by governments. They would have viewed it as the digital version of gold, and the digital version of almost everything is always better. Viewing Bitcoin in that way is a lot more digestible. It's a lot easier to imagine that happening. It's a lot easier to see the pathway up, as opposed to saying this is going to be the currency that every single person across the world uses in 10, 15, even 40 or 50 years. To ever believe that one currency can come up and become the day-to-day use for everyone in the world is already an extremely tall task. And then on top of that, there's no government backing. It's extremely difficult to imagine that. And so people are very skeptic. When I think about most of the hesitation I've heard about getting into Bitcoin, it surrounds these two ideas. The first one is that it's a scam, that you might lose all of your money like the crypto gamblers out there. And the truth is, a very, very small number of people have actually lost all of their life savings in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is extremely volatile, but the floor of Bitcoin has been steadily going up. People who have put their money into this asset have seen consistent gains on a year-to-year basis. Additionally, the exchange problems and the scams that are happening have never been a problem of the Bitcoin network itself. It's always been of other crypto companies or exchanges and public infrastructures taking advantage of people and lying to people. The other major argument that I hear is, well, I'll never be able to go to the store and buy coffee with that. And it's an argument that I think puts the bar for Bitcoin to succeed so astronomically high that it's unrealistic. Do I think it could happen? I think it's possible, absolutely. Do I think the world might be a better place for it? I do, yes. The expectation that in order for Bitcoin to be successful, it needs to go from what it is today at a $2 trillion market cap to the major currency used across the entire globe at probably 150, 200 times more value than it is today is such a high bar that you can begin to understand why people would see that and say, well, it's never going to do it. It's a scam. It's claiming it'll be a currency, but it'll never actually be a currency. When if it falls short of that number, even if it falls significantly short of being the global currency used in the world, it'll still be worth 10, 20, maybe 30 times what it is today. This is why over the last 7 years, I've really been under the impression that the number one thing holding Bitcoin back is that it's been marketed as a cryptocurrency. And it's something that I think is beginning to help now with it being considered digital gold. But it's important to understand that this asset, it isn't crypto. The crypto space is entirely different. I compare crypto as like tech companies. They're building new technology with the purpose of innovation, of building something and providing a real product or service that you can host websites on, or transfer files on, or store public data. That is what the kind of crypto industry is doing. And as with any emergent industry, there's a lot of fundraising for projects that are all talk, and there's a lot of real projects that do amazing things. And I think crypto is going to be the same way. There's going to be a lot of losers and a few major winners, which is why, for the most part, I do believe trying to pick out any individual cryptocurrency outside of Bitcoin is mostly gambling. It's the same as trying to take an emergent AI company and saying, this is going to be the one that's successful, and avoid all of the ones that are very likely going to go broke and never even put a product to the market. Bitcoin's totally different. Bitcoin is gold in this scenario. It's not a company. It's not ran by anyone. It's not controlled by anyone. Nobody changes it. Nobody has overwhelming control of it. It is truly a decentralized digital commodity. And if you value the concept of sellability and the ownership, the true online ownership and scarcity that comes with Bitcoin, then it's worth something. And these are the people that are buying and holding Bitcoin. But just as Bitcoin is not a crypto, it's also not a currency yet. And quite frankly, it's really far from being a currency. The volatility has to decrease dramatically. You can't have the price of your rent changing by 10 to 25% in a given month just because it's going up or down. And the expectations for it to be a currency are way too high. Instead, it should really be advertised as digital gold. And I think once people begin to understand that, once they begin to realize how much gold is worth, why gold is worth what it is, and that the digital version of an asset is always better, I think people can start to see that they can disconnect Bitcoin from the scams and rug pulls. They can also stop thinking about Bitcoin as the only way for it to be successful is if I can use it at Starbucks. And they can start realizing this asset can be maybe 10% of what I was told it might be. And if it achieves that, it'll still be a huge success and be worth 10 to 30 times what it is today. Thank you all for listening. This was a more off-the-cuff video. It's something that has been kind of one of my long-standing thoughts on Bitcoin. It's one of the reasons when I started investing really early, originally I thought that it was trying to be a currency and it was gambling in this crypto space, and I was buying other cryptocurrencies and I was really just trying to trade because I thought I was the smartest trader ever, which obviously I wasn't. But it wasn't until I realized that Bitcoin is different than those things I listed. Those things drew me in because I was trying to make money quick. And then I realized that Bitcoin's a very different game. And it was once I connected that it's not one of those scam assets. It's not something to trade daily. It is a long-term asset that's looking to be a store of value like gold. I began researching gold. I began understanding, why does gold actually hold as much value as it does? Gold has a market cap of $30 trillion. That's, off the top of my head, almost 7 times more than Nvidia or Microsoft. That's insane. That's a lot of gold in this world. And it's not from jewelry, right? There's not that much gold jewelry going around. So I really started to research that and started to learn the fundamentals of why I believe Bitcoin can be digital gold. I started to do the numbers on if Bitcoin is digital gold, where will it end up? And that's whenever I really kind of gained confidence to invest in it, because it could fall short of this global currency goal that it set and be wildly successful. Even if it falls short of being a digital gold, even if it's a fraction of digital gold, right? Half of what digital gold is, it should still be worth nearly $500,000 to $1 million a coin. And that's when I really gained confidence in what the pricing of this asset should be, or at least what the floor should be, and when I kind of went all in. So I want to talk about that a little bit. And as always, when in doubt, zoom out.